Welcome to the closeout session of the Jefferson Lab PAC. I will walk you through the slides that show our recommendations and results. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, there's a note. We have a small delay because we have worked on reviewing all the reports, and we hope to have the full report document out next week. Very good, thank you. So now to the next slide. What you probably want to hear most is the results. So here's the first part of the results of the proposals. We have reviewed 13 proposals that were new and 3 conditional ones, which come on the next slide later. Let me briefly comment on the individual proposals, but this has to be short because there are so many of them this time. We decided to defer the dark light proposal because the significance of the anomalies it would like to check or refute is still not extremely high in our opinion. It would be good to have a check, but then in addition there is a problem of this experiment running in a timely fashion, and that is very difficult to realize. Given this, and the fact that we did not find a sufficient amount of simulations in the proposal that convinced us that it would be ready to run, we decided to defer. The next proposal is for spin-dependent electron scattering on polarized helium-3, and that is conditionally approved. It should have a lab review that will need to ascertain that the target development can actually be brought to a good conclusion and that the target as needed for the experiment can be realized. Otherwise, we were very much happy to see the proposal, the physics case, and the technology it aims to realize are very attractive. The next experiment was an extension request to search for lambda and n resonance. The experiment E12-17-003 had seen an indication of that, but not had enough statistics to be sure about its significance. Now, this we decided to defer with return to the PAC. First of all, because we were missing more state-of-the-art analysis of the statistical significance of the peak seen in the previous experiment, and believe that without such an analysis, it is not really possible to assess how likely or unlikely it is that the extension request will see a signal or not. The second reason for the conditional approval is that we felt that the technicalities related with the target of this experiment need to be worked out in more detail. The next experiment is PRAT-2. That is conditionally approved. We found the physics case and presentation of the proposed improvements on PRAT very much compelling. It is a conditional approval with return to the lab because there were 2 parts of the proposed upgrades that the PAC is not fully convinced of in terms of their necessity for the experiment. And that is the upgrade of the colorimeter, which is very costly, and the installation of new R-wells, which present a new technology. And to use a new technology in a high precision experiment does carry some risks. So these questions should be clarified between the collaboration and the lab at a technical review. Next experiment is approved. That was for the precision experiment measurements with A=3 nuclei in Hall B. Not only of A=3 nuclei, but also including measurements on a deuterium target. The physics case of that was felt to be very compelling. There were some technical concerns in the discussion, but they could eventually be resolved by correspondence with the proponents. The next experiment is the precision deuteron charge radius measurement, or DRAD. This proposal we decided to defer. Unlike the proton radius, we did not feel that the physics case for a deuteron radius measurement is as compelling. And perhaps even more seriously, we had serious concerns that the theory that is necessary to extract deuteron radius from the measurement is really in place, and that potentially would endanger the success and the scientific aim of the proposal. This is why we think this should come back when these points have been clarified, and that might need some time. Next experiment is on backward angle exclusive pi-zero production. This was approved. There was a discussion already in the open session about the strength of the theory behind the measurement and the real possibility that the theory in its present form may not be able to describe the data. Nevertheless, the PAC felt that this is a first measurement in a kinematic regime that is relevant for understanding strong interactions, and in the sense of an exploratory experiment, it should happen, and therefore it was approved. Next, we have the polarization transfer in wide-angle charged pion photoproduction. That is rather concentrated in scope, as was discussed in the open session as well. But that concentration or limitation, if you wish, is a direct result of the idea that this experiment is done together with an already approved beam time by adding on just a little bit. And the PAC felt that this was indeed a very good opportunity to be taken. Last experiment on this slide is one of the two positron beam proposals, and I will discuss them jointly. This one and the proposal for a measurement with positron beams in Hall C have been conditionally approved with return to the PAC. We felt that this was the best we could do. We do see the high attractiveness of a physics program with positron beams at Jefferson Lab. However, the technical realization of that is presently so unclear that it was inevitable for us that this would need to be reviewed again once the technical boundary conditions for beams and their characteristics are clarified further. If you'd like to flip slide now, please. Thank you. So the comments I've just made apply equally to two experiments. In addition to this necessary technical development, we have pointed out in the report that we think the physics case can be made yet stronger on top of what the proposals have presented. And we believe that making that case stronger will really be important to give enough momentum to the entire development of a positron beam, which is obviously a very large enterprise. Let me now go to the top of the table, experiment for measurement of two photon exchange contribution in neutron-electron scattering. This is again a rather small experiment in terms of beam time, but it has a very attractive physics case. We think that this is a good use of an opportunity and therefore have approved the experiment. The next one in the list is the measurement of the high energy contribution to the GDH sum rule. This was presented as an LOI last year. We reviewed this favorably last year, and the full proposal was reviewed just as favorably at this PAC. The next one I have already discussed. So we come to the proposal number 13 for the study of lambda interactions in nuclear matter. This was approved as well. We find that the physics case has been strengthened since the previous presentation of this at the PAC. There were technical concerns, but these could be cleared up during our discussions. I come now to the last three experiments which were conditionally approved already. The first one is the proposal for a secondary K long beam in Hall D. This is now fully approved. The physics case was seen as very attractive, and this is indeed was perceived as a great opportunity for the lab. It is, however, clear that this is a very large enterprise in terms of constructing this beam and the associated infrastructure. So we try and give some guidance in the report as to how we hope that this can be achieved, and in particular, the PAC believes that a coordinated effort of leadership between the collaboration and the lab will be necessary to bring this to a good end. The next proposal is on the high accuracy measurement masses of lambda hyperhydrogens. This is approved with C2, so it will need to return to a future PAC. The reason for that is that there is technical concern that the high pressure target needed by this experiment, as by its proposal, will not fit. And that means a redesign of the target and possibly going to lower pressure may be necessary. This in turn may affect the beam time request. So we felt it was too early to grant full approval at this point in time. Finally, the returning experiment proposal for time-like competence capturing of a transversely polarized target was approved conditionally with return to the PAC. The reason for return is that we are now convinced of the physics case. This has been strengthened since the first time. However, we do see remaining technical issues which are critical for the success of the measurement, and therefore we would like to see this again. That continues my discussion of the proposals. If you'd like to flip slide, please. Thank you very much. So here are just a few more words about the two proposals requiring a positron beam. We have had a letter of intent in 2018 that was broader in scope and presented several possible measurements. BBCS was one of them. At that point, the PAC recommended that individual proposals be worked out and be presented to the PAC. We are therefore very happy that this has happened so quickly. In addition, just a few weeks ago, a very comprehensive white paper on positron beams at JLab appeared on the archive. So the PAC sees that as a very good sign. The committee sees a great physics potential in such a program, and we encourage the lab to engage in a vigorous effort to explore how this can be made a reality. Meanwhile, we are looking forward to receiving further proposals that would make use of positron beams in the sense that putting the physics case for such a facility on a broader basis will certainly be necessary and beneficial. At this point in time, it's very difficult to predict how positron beams will eventually look like, what will their characteristics be. That is nothing that can be reproached to the proposed experiments. So it should be understood that the recommendations we can make now are really based on the working hypothesis that beams, as they are specified in the proposals, can eventually be realized. We can come to the next slide, please. Thank you. We have, in addition, deliberated about run group additions and letters of intent. I've just given the list here. All of the 5 proposed run group additions are endorsed, and we provide reports for the 3 letters of intent with our assessment of their strengths and weaknesses. We did not at this meeting review the experiments in jeopardy for reasons of time. This will be done on a separate day in September. The results of that review will be added to the report document as soon as we can afterward. Next slide, please. I would like to make a few general comments on behalf of the PAC. The first one is that we were very pleased to see a large number of very strong proposals with well-presented arguments and carefully planned measurements and attractive physics goals. That is unfortunately only one part of the story. We have had some issues with proposals and that in several cases, so we would like to bring these to your attention. We recommend that proposals make a clear distinction between the general context of what they want to achieve and the specific goals that the experiment can deliver. And something like the improvement of our knowledge of generalized parton distributions or other quantities, that should be in the context part, but that is not a concrete goal. That by itself is simply not enough for the PAC to recommend a specific measurement, because we need a sense of what specifically will be achieved. And of course, we need to be told in which context that achievement will be relevant. So please take care of separating these two things. We need both, but we cannot trade one for the other. Another point is that we have seen many of the measurements proposed that are really in the realm of high precision. That, I think, reflects just the fantastic opportunities offered by the upgraded CBAF beams and experimental halls. However, high precision comes at a price. It means that systematic uncertainties can become really crucial, and that entails that we need to see in the proposals estimates of the systematic uncertainties and the documentation on how these estimates have been obtained. For some cases, a back of the envelope estimate may be okay, but if you're going to very high precision, and if that's a crucial aim of your measurement, we must see something more substantial. Last point we have to make, unfortunately, there were more than one proposals that suffered from what you might call minor flaws, but there were just too many of them. And that is numbers that don't fit, sentences that are broken, figures where you have to just guess what the different curves are, and repetitions that typically occur if you copy-paste. Even something like stray paragraphs that didn't belong to this proposal but work from previous versions and had been taken out. While we do understand that mistakes can happen, please on your side also understand that these things put an extra workload on the proposal's readers, and they slow down the PAC review. And the workload of the readers was really high enough even without these difficulties. So we must insist that such things don't happen to the extent as they did this time. I think we were fairly tolerant in this respect, but I advise you not to count on that in the future. So you can see it in a positive way. The PAC readers of your proposals are your best friends if they find your proposal compelling, because they have to defend it in front of the rest of the PAC. And you're doing them a favor and yourself if you submit carefully prepared proposals to them, because that really simplifies their work. We can now go to the last slide, please. It's time to say thanks. We would like to thank all the spokespersons and the collaborations. They have put a lot of effort into what we have seen, despite the dark clouds I had to mention on the previous slide. I personally would like to thank all PAC reviewers for their patience during this week. We had an incredibly full schedule, and you don't want to know what they went through. And I would also especially like to thank Ken Paschke, the chair of the users organization, who was very helpful in all our proceedings. I would like to thank JLab management and many of the JLab scientists, especially Bob, Rolf, and Patricia, and also all those who provided the TAC physics and theory reports. The work that went into that was disproportional to the amount of proposals we had received, and these reports are incredibly useful for the PAC. Thank you for that good work. Finally, we have all seen during this week that meetings online are not without their problems. And I think we would have ended up in chaos and despair if it had not been for Susan, Pat, and Lorelei, who were always there when there was a problem, and they helped us. And I think it went fine until the very end. Thanks to you very much. And with this, I'm done.
Thank you, Marcus. I want to say a few words, and then we could maybe see if there are any questions from the audience briefly. I really want to thank the committee. This was a heavy load this year. That number of proposals that came in, and I know they're all completely exhausted at this point. It was a very difficult week, but I think they did a great job, and we have a very good result in a report that you will see very soon. And I want to thank all the presenters as well. They took very seriously the instructions to practice sharing their screen and all of those things, and as a result, we had very few problems, and the meeting was able to be conducted pretty much on schedule for the whole week. So that was great. And once again, my personal thanks to Pat, Lorelei, and Susan. Just amazing the amount of organization that went into all of these different connecting all these different people at different times to different rooms. It was really amazing. All went extremely well, so we're very thankful for that. I guess it should be possible if people want to bring up questions in the Q&A, and we could see if maybe Marcus is willing to answer a few questions if there are any. So see if anything comes up in the next minute or so. We have impressive participation here today. There's 94 attendees and 14 presenters, so it's over 100 people here, 110. Okay, I guess we don't see any questions coming in, so I want to thank the committee one more time, and especially those in Europe. Marcus, I'm sure you're very tired and ready to go to sleep soon. I hope everyone has a good weekend, and thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Bastian wants to see the first slide again. I don't know if that's possible. Is that possible, Lorelei? Bring up the first slide again.
Yes, just a second. I think I closed it out briefly. I assume we want the second slide?
I assume.
Okay.
Perhaps just as an extra bit of information, this is hot off the press, as you may imagine. These slides will be posted on the Indico page of the PAC, so you can then consult them in full detail whenever you have time. I do see I see many questions. There's one question from Moskov. What decides between A minus versus A? That is a grading procedure, which is eventually done by a secret ballot in the PAC. And we try and situate the experiments that we grade with respect to those that are approved, in order to provide as much as possible a continuity in the way that grades are given. I hope this helps a little bit. Ken Pashkim was present during the procedure, and if appropriate, he can very well explain that perhaps at to the users at a users group meeting if there is a desire for that.
So yes, we will post these slides very soon, I guess. Susan can post them on the Indico site so people can refer to them.
The meaning of C2, there is a question. C2 means it is conditionally approved, but it has to return to a future PAC. C1 is conditionally approved, but with return for a lab review, not to a PAC.
Well, I see Ken Deese is asking, what do these newly approved experiments bring the total number of outstanding approved experiment days requested to? I'm afraid I don't have that arithmetic with me. We will be updating the usual table that summarizes all of that soon. We'll have that. I think there were 76 or 78 experiments in the program, some of which have been run and completed, of course. And so we have a few approved experiments here and a few conditionally approved. We'll go up by a few. I think the total amount of running time, and most of the running time that's involved here is involved halls B and D, and amounts to maybe up to about 2 years running in each of those halls. And smaller amounts added to halls A and C. Further questions? As a comment, experiment approved for 200 days can't be A minus. It sure can be. It's happened before. A new question. And he says that. Okay, well, I think we can adjourn the meeting now, and people can go back to their lives and get on with the weekend. Thank you all very much. Stay safe.
Good, thank you.
We'll be in Jeopardy
Thank
next
you
month.
and goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.